Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the show. It's Saturday, not Friday. It's Saturday. I know, I'm late. I had a birthday to attend yesterday, and I did that, so I apologize. But I'm here now, and that's what matters. Better late than never, right? Better to ask for permission better ask for forgiveness than permission, right? All right, so let's get on with it. It's Saturday night for a Friday night show. Welcome to the club. It's Untethered Live, and I'm your host, Jake Johnson, and tonight we're going to talk about Friday's show on Saturday and other anomalies. And Amanda, you get the gold star. Have a gold star. Welcome to the show. How is everyone? How's the world? How's life? How's the weather? How's your glucose? What's your Social Security like? You know, typical questions. Are you circumcised? I think not. I asked that question in court once. I was like, oh, I'm sorry. I thought we were asking ridiculously inappropriate questions that had nothing to do with why we're here. Continue. Apparently, I'm not very well liked among the upper class. The world is screwed and the weather is hot, says Amanda. Well, at least you're positive. At least you can look at it positively. Positively insane. Yeah. Hey, Lisa Reen, welcome to the show. Come on in, take your shoes off. How are you, sweetheart? I just opened this up and you ask if I was circumcised. Well, inquiring minds want to know. Better. That's totally my style. I thank you very much. I appreciate it. It's kind of annoying. I have a very large head. I got to have somewhere to put all that brain, you know? They don't make necklaces or shirts that fit around this. If you don't believe me, consult my tailor. You know what they say about the size of a man's neck, don't you? If it's big enough, he'll never be able to buy a fitted shirt. Well, I'm not, but my son is. I thought it was necessary. Yeah, it's weird how they put that on you, isn't it? Totally not necessary, by the way. I'm perfectly healthy. And, you know, hung like a mule. A tiny one, but a mule nonetheless. I think way to start off a relationship with that kind of trust issue. But, you know. First act is my mother. She cut half of my penis off. Oh, yeah, I trust her implicitly. No, I'm just kidding. I'm teasing you. Everybody thought it was necessary for a little while, and it is necessary for a certain group of people. But if you're not of that certain group of people, it's totally not necessary. We read about those people on Sunday, by the way. And I don't know why God required that, other than commitment, maybe. It's kind of hard to back out once you've gone that far. You know, it might be that. I don't know. There might be something spiritual about it. I don't know. But for some reason, he required that of them. He did not require that of the Gentiles, so we're safe from the inevitable person who has to fill that job called a moil. In case you don't know, they're called a moil. And their original practice was to bite it off. Yes, I said bite it off. Not sure how that holds up, but There you have it. All I can say is thank God now they use a string. And you may be thinking to yourself, well, that's a conspiracy theory, Jake. There's no way a grown man would bite a baby's penis off in the name of God. To that, I say, do some research and get back with me. Since I was adopted and so was my biological mother, who knows, right? Right? That's kind of weird. I understand that. And also, this whole idea of genealogy kind of bothers me anyway, because if you've ever done the math on it, you as a person have 2 parents, but you have 4 grandparents, and you have 8 great-grandparents, and you have 16 great-great-grandparents, and 32 great-great-great-great-grandparents, and 128 great-great-great-great-great-great-grandparents. And on and on and on. So I don't know how you can go back further than maybe 2 generations before your bloodline is completely lost to time. How do you figure out where you came from when every person in that list, and I just went back a few years, every person in that list came from somewhere, probably not the same place. How can you tell what you are? How is DNA not constantly shifting back and forth and mixing and intermixing and outer mixing and bleeding out and fading away and coming into new things? The math on that is ridiculous. So I don't know if I buy genealogy at all after about maybe 2 generations. I think if it's past the 1800s, it doesn't matter where you came from. That's what I think. I think you're a whole new human being at that point. There's no way to maintain a bloodline unless your bloodline is pure all the way back. Like you marry within the same tribe, always, like the Jews did. And then they can trace their genealogy back thousands of years. But us, as people that are, freewheeling it all over the earth and floating around from continent to continent as we go back, there's no telling where we came from or what we are or how much of what we got. We might have opposing sides inside of us from 2 different places. It's possible. So that whole thing is a little screwy. I'm a mess, says Amanda. Why, yes. Yes, I am. Amanda says, yes, they do. It's kind of cool, actually, and no pain for the baby. You're talking about the string. Yeah. They don't bite it anymore, but they did. I promise. Look it up. I'm not making shit up here on this YouTube channel. I tell the truth, and you can't handle the truth. Or something. It's a good cup of coffee. Old, but good. How are you, Lisa Reen? Are you having a good day? Are you at home? Are you working on a Saturday? What's going on with you? Don't mind me. I'm just in a rare mood. Yeah, it's called Plastibell. Is it now? It's called Cruel and Unusual. That's what I think it is. And it's a little bit of a jealousy. When my kid was born, I looked at him, I said, oh, goodness gracious. He's hung like a bear. And they said, that's the umbilical cord, Mr. Johnson. Really? Don't cut that. Let him dream for a little while. Jesus. Thank you, Robin Williams, for the joke. I'm not a comedian, but I do play one on TV. And I'm also a member myself. What? I think I got my genres confused. Is anybody out there? Is this thing on? Hello? There she is. How was the birthday bash? Well, it was good. We went to IHOP and had, well, she had a salad and I had an omelet and some coffee, and we just sat and talked for a while, just the 2 of us. It's quite nice. Me and my sister hardly ever get to hang out, so it was lovely to get a chance to do so. And do I wear wigs? No. Why would you think I wore a wig? Does it look like I'm wearing a wig? Can you not see the height of my forehead? Thank you, Jimmy. Welcome to the show. Do I wear wigs? What's the matter with you? I don't need to wear a wig. I have extra right here. Briella, welcome to the show. Say hi to Briella. I did. Will you wear wigs? No, I will not. What is your obsession with wigs? I don't know. I might. To be honest with you, depends on the circumstance. If I get in the right mood, you never know what I'll do. I might shave my head and walk around in nothing but a thong screaming I'm a pony wearing pantyhose on my head or something. You never know. Depends on what's going on. Well, not today. How about that? How about change the subject to something, quasi-intellectual? I'll go down many rabbit holes with you, but why would I wear a wig? Doesn't even make sense to the context of the conversation thus far. I like your moxie, though. It's good. Good to be passionate about something. Weird as it may be. Anyway, if you're new to this channel, I talk and I play guitar, and then I talk some more. And you can talk too. But in the interest of the other people listening, let's have a conversation about something of value, of merit. You like wigs? Well, that's cool. There's nothing wrong with that. If you like wigs, when are you going to wear a wig? How about that? Are you wearing one currently as we speak? Yes, no, maybe. Maybe. No, I don't. All right, this is the last time I'm going to ask. I'm going to ask nicely. I come to you in good faith to have a good conversation, to meet new people, to share my community with new people. I ask you to do the same. This is a privilege, not a right. So be prevailed. What you say next is very important, Jimmy. Why every time I'm watching someone doing pottery, I can't stop thinking about Patrick Swayze? Well, you're not alone. We all think about Patrick Swayze when we watch people do pottery because that was a sexy scene, and I get where you're coming from. But don't forget about Demi Moore, who was also equally hot in that scene. Ghost is the movie we're talking about. Is that Alucard? Do you Lucard? Oh. Clever name. I like it. So true. Amen. Thank you, Oh. Thank you. And Patrick Swayze did quite a few good movies. You should check out Roadhouse if you haven't done so already. Totally 80s schlock, but a great movie nonetheless. They're remaking it now as we speak with Jake Gyllenhaal, which it isn't going to be as good, I promise. Happy unusual Saturday. Fab Daddy, what's up, my brother? Good to see you. My name is easier if you read it backwards. Oh. You're Dracula, I see. I went in a different direction with that. I'm glad. I'm glad you enlightened me. Dracula. What is a skibbity? Would somebody enlighten me? I know this is a new thing, young people thing, but I don't know what it's the reference to. But I would imagine it's sexual in nature. How about tell me? I'm new. What's good? I'm good, Mr. Skibbity, and so are you. I saw your video, Fab. Nice job on the guitar, says Amanda. Oh, you got a video out, Fab? I need to check that out. Skibbity is a reference to Skibbity Toilet. I don't know what that is. Is that like a thing? Is that a skit on Saturday Night Live or something like that? Tab, welcome to the show. Hey, I just joined. I like your wig. Tab, are you the other guy? A popular YouTube skid show. Okay. Kids show. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Skibbity. I appreciate it. I will look into it and find out what it is because I've heard it 2 or 3 times and I know I'm missing something, but I'll figure it out. Your background is fire, though. Thank you. That's not a background. That's my wall. That's a Marshall cabinet and a 2A flag. Can you give me a shout out? Xavier! You have been shouted. Awesome. Cool. I have no problem reaching across the aisle to the younger generation. I just have to know which direction to look. That's all. You're welcome, Xavier. Welcome to the show. Come on in, guys. We're discussing general anomalous things. Feel free to bring up a topic. Where are you come from? I am from the east coast of the United States. I'm subscribing, says Xavier. Thank you, Xavier. Welcome aboard. Rap comments. No. I do rap, but you have to pay me a lot of money for me to do that. Because it isn't my typical thing. And if I'm going to step outside of my comfort zone, so are you. Ain't that right, Fat Daddy? I'm from Canada, Montreal. All right, Dracula. I'm sorry for what you guys are going through up there. I hope y'all get it under control. Any good movies, newer movies, please. Well, Fat Daddy, I hate to be the bearer of bad news to you, but they don't make good movies anymore. At least I haven't seen any. There are a couple that are passable, but they're not what I would consider great cinema, quote unquote. I'm sorry. There's just nothing out there. I can reference you some really great movies to watch, but they'll be from the 80s, 70s, early 90s. No, Keb, I'm not doing either one of those things. Pretty sure. I am, however, smoking a cigarette. Xavier says, I also live in the United States. Cool. Go home team. But also, look out for Canada. Captain Kirk came from Canada. Can't be all bad. You know what I'm saying? Although your leader has lost his freaking mind. I will say that. I recommend strongly, depending on how old you are, when people start introducing ideas like rights, that you go stand in line with those people. Because y'all need some badly. Fab Daddy says the last good one I saw was Society of the Snow, but I mentioned that already. I don't believe I've seen that. Who's in it, Fab Daddy? Mr. Skibbity says, you kind of fine. Well, thank you. I'm flattered, but I don't swing that way, buddy. Best of luck to you. Bruni TV says something in Russian. Amanda says, everybody like, subscribe, share, and support, please. You can do that by going to paypal.me/JakeJohnsonBand or Cash App $JakeJohnsonBand. Say, Sorkus is my friend, please. Why? I don't know who Sorkus is. Who do you think will win the Super Bowl? Whoever that chick, the country singer, Taylor Swift, whoever she's dating, whatever team he's on, that's who's going to win the Super Bowl. Jeevatron says, greetings from Germany. Greetings. Welcome to the show, Jeeba. Fab Day says, the television network is the true winner of the Super Bowl. Yes, true. Whoever makes those commercials, yeah. Guns, burgers, and flags. America, says Mr. Skibbity. Don't forget hot girls. That's very important. Amanda says, the team with the most points. Nope. Unfortunately, I don't think that's how it's going to work this year. I think it's already been decided who's going to win. Write it down that I said so. If I'm wrong, I will apologize. I think I picked up on a pattern, though, and I think that I can foretell the future based on that pattern. Chiefs, that's the one, Xavier. Thank you. Yes, sir, says Mr. Skibbity. It's going to be the Chiefs, says Amanda. I think so, too. I would be shocked if it's not, to put it that way. Groundwork as they've laid for it, it's almost got to be. I know what Riz means. I have potloads of that. Riz is Gen Z for charisma. Xavier says, subscribe and like, everybody. Thank you, Xavier. All right, now, Mr. Skibbity, don't make me have to bounce you out of here now. I told you already I don't go that way, so don't push yourself on me. It's not going to work out. Bros Risen, YP. All the ladies. I think I understood that. Bud Light is the winner of the Super Bowl. Well, that's not seen yet. They're still struggling. Oh, Bros Risen up all the ladies. I'm sorry. That makes more sense. Thank you. Well, I'll try, you know. The secret is the mustache, which is currently not here, but will be soon. They dream about it, believe me. You're the best, says Xavier. Thank you. I appreciate that. Amanda says, Reba is singing the national anthem. That's going to be the best part. Really? Reba? That's unusual. I haven't heard from her in like 15 years. Oh, Reba McEntire. I never thought I'd hear that name again. After 50 years, they finally asked her to sing the national anthem. Well, she's done it before. Because I've seen it before. It may have been something else, but I think it was a Super Bowl. She's done the national anthem, though. It's hard to forget her singing the national anthem because she puts a lot of syllables in words that aren't there. I've been at a rodeo, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. But I have heard her sing the national anthem before. And what is she doing researching? Why is she singing the national anthem? She's like 60, right? 65, 70, something like that. Who is the halftime show? I don't know. Probably Jay-Z or Beyonce or somebody like that. Ain't no telling. Although, with the course correction that Bud Light is making, it's liable to be Garth Brooks. I'm just saying. They are skidding to the left for sure. Starfire, hello. Welcome to the show. Yes, 50 years ago in 1974, she sang for a rodeo. Well, there you go. I knew I had seen it before. Has it been 50 years already? Jesus Christ. That was the year I was born. Why do I remember that? Must have been a rerun or something. Kloss does stuff, or is that Selos does stuff? I don't know what a phantom gat is. Mystic nerdgasm. I love it. Trump. What kind of question is that? Are you mentally ill? Do you want to live in a gulag? Do you want the Gulag Archipelago to become a real thing again? Because if you do, go the other way. Neither one, Fab Daddy. Neither one. Usher is the main show of the Super Bowl, says Amanda. Usher. Kloss says, I'm dying. Don't die. I don't believe that will happen. Well, I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what my mother used to tell me, but think of it in reverse. Want in one hand and spit in the other hand and see which one gets full faster. Just believe with all your might that it ain't going to happen while you watch it occur right before your eyes. I'm old enough to remember when this country was actually prosperous, and it wasn't even that prosperous then, but it's better than it was now. So maybe you should pay attention to the past a little bit. Please stop smoking. It will kill your lungs. My dad would not stop smoking, and he had to go to the hospital. I would not want that to happen to you. Well, thank you, Xavier. I appreciate the concern, buddy. It's probably not going to happen. We're all sinners, and that's my vice, and it always has been, and it always will be probably. But you are absolutely right, and you have every right to express that, and thank you for expressing it in that way. One thing I hate is when people get on here and try to tell me I need to quit smoking. Well, I'm a grown man. I made the decision to start smoking, and I don't even listen to my mama. I'm not going to listen to a stranger, but showing compassion is a different thing, and I appreciate that. No, Klaus, because I don't know what it means, and I don't make a habit of saying things I don't understand. Is Taylor Swift a CIA covert agent? Probably not, but anything is possible, and judging based on some of the things that the deep state has done already, yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if she was. But I'd say probably she's just swept up in the motion of pop culture, and it just appears that way. Keep making that noise. I'm about to finish. Oh, Cyclops. Don't be dirty in here. There's ladies present. What's the matter with you? I quit by switching to vaping. It made it pretty easy. Ever think about trying it? I have, and I coughed like a maniac because of putting water vapor in my lungs. It's not a good trade-off for me. It may be for some people. I've heard people that have had success with that. It just doesn't work for me. But here's the problem. I don't want to quit smoking. I like smoking. I enjoy it. It's one of the few things I get pleasure from. So, Lisa Reed says, you're cracking me up, Jake. These new children are something else. Yes, I know. But hey, I go wherever the YouTube winds blow me. Blow me being the operative word, YouTube. Gust means big butt. Get means big butt. Okay, well, thank you. That goes away after about a week. Well, I'll give it a shot one of these days. But for today, one thing I can tell you, though, I make my own cigarettes. So there's none of that stuff that they put in cigarettes, the chemicals and the paper and stuff. I get real paper and real tobacco with nothing in it. So it's a little healthier. It's still bad, still going to hurt me eventually, but I don't have to worry about all those carcinogens in my cigarette. So if you look over my shoulder on top of that amp, there's a couple of bags of tobacco right there, and on the other side of that is the machine I use to make my cigarettes with. Mystic Nerdgasm says, fair enough. Amanda says, yes, Lee Serene. Hi, please turn on the track. This is a cool Russian rap. I respect black rap. Miyagi is the best rim style shit. I don't know what any of that means, but thank you, Russian person, with a question mark at the end of their name. Xavier says, oh, good. Fab Daddy says, what's with the different format? Not used to it. What different format? You mean being here on Saturday? I had a birthday party to attend last night, and it got late, and I wasn't prepared to start the show, and other things came up, so I had to go do that. And so I left a community note saying I'd be here tonight instead of last night. It's back to normal after this. And I apologize for any inconvenience. But I welcome all new people who are interested in being buddies and having a good conversation and maybe learning a thing or two. If you're talking about something else, Fab Dad, I'm not sure what you're talking about. Fab Daddy says, yes, Amanda. You now one of my favorite YouTubers, says Xavier. Well, thank you, Xavier. I appreciate that. I'll play you a song a little bit. Y'all must be talking about a new, the way you're seeing the channel. I don't know. They're doing some weird things. I noticed a difference in the way I set the show up, too. So I don't know what's going on. Is Tucker Carlson right to coddle Putin's balls? Well, if you watch the interview, he did not coddle Putin's balls. It could have been a more hard-hitting interview, but he did not softball Putin. He did ask some hard questions, and he did press for an answer. Keep in mind, Putin is one of the most powerful men in the world, and people regularly fall out of windows and come down with serious, mysterious illnesses in his presence. Often, you don't want to piss that guy off. So the fact that Tucker Carlson even sat across from him in the Kremlin, in his cabinet, in front of him, without a detail surrounding him, shows who actually has the balls to be coddled. So, yeah, I think Tucker Carlson was the right guy, and he opened a dialogue that no one else could do. Despite the fact they may have tried, they failed. He did it. This may come as a shock to you, but every major news organization has been trying for a decade to get an interview with Putin, and he turns them all down flat. But he accepted Tucker. Why? Why do you think? Xavier says, like and subscribe. Yes, everybody hit that like button. There's 14 people here. There's only 3 likes. That math don't add up, and I'm working hard over here. So how about do me the courtesy? Yes, Jake, YouTube, says Amanda. Thank you, dear. He did for most of it. He did what for most of it? Softball? No, he did not. What he did do was allow Putin to talk, which is something nobody else would have done. They would have constantly interrupted him, and he wouldn't have been able to make the points he made. Now, whether you believe what he said or not is an entirely different story, but you got to hear what his point of view was, which was important, the reason for that interview. That's not a softball. You got to hear his perspective as to why he is engaged in what he is engaged in from his belief system, which is different from ours because Russians and Americans don't think the same way about the world. And they've been here a whole lot longer than we have. So they have a different mentality about what's going on. It doesn't matter whether Tucker is friendly to the Russian point of view or not. It is a journalist's job to interview world leaders. For example, CNN interviewed Osama bin Laden in and around the time of 9/11. Were they doing something wrong? No, they were getting his perspective. Saddam Hussein was interviewed shortly before he died or got caught, whatever. Lots of world leaders, Kim Jong-un and Kim Jong-il before him. Xi Jinping has been interviewed by CNN, by MSNBC, by whoever will get the job to go do it. That's what reporters do. That's how people like you and me get to see their perspective on television. That's not a bad way to be. Trust me when I tell you, if you read The Art of War by Sun Tzu, which you should read if you want to have any kind of brain for strategy, you should start there, The Art of War. One of the first things you'll learn is to know thy enemy. You can't fight an enemy you don't understand. You have to see it from his point of view. You have to have an open dialogue. That's how you learn things. And then you can use that to your advantage. If you don't have that information, you don't have an advantage. See? There's nothing wrong with interviewing a bad guy. I don't know that Putin's a bad guy. You don't either. What you know is what our media has fed to us for the last decade. That's all you know. You have no idea what he does for his country or what kind of person he is, or even if he's religious or anything like that. Thanks to this interview, though, we do know that he does believe in Christian values because he said as much. Now, does that make him a Christian? I don't know because I know nothing about the man. And I'm not prepared to judge him based on what I know. I'm not going to call him a monster. He might be a monster. I don't know. He might be a stone cold killer. But I don't know that. What I do know is that he is the leader of the country we're currently in war with. It'd be nice to know what his perspective is on the situation, what he thinks about it. That's my opinion. I don't like to read, though. I wouldn't say that out loud, Mystic Nerdgasm. That doesn't make you look intelligent. There are two ways to become intelligent in this world, and one of them is reading a lot. Other countries have issues with him too. They may very well have. Which is more the reason we should understand where he's coming from, so that maybe we can avoid some of those pitfalls or know how to handle them when they arise. Don't you think? Wouldn't that make sense to you? If you had a bully at school and every time you walked out the door, he just beat your ass, wouldn't you want to know why eventually? Might be a reason, might be something you could work out. Might be a weakness that he has that you can exploit, but you won't know that if you don't ever take the time to learn who your enemy is. You got a Valentine, says Fab Daddy. Yes, I do. Do you? Ask England a few years ago when he poisoned the journalist. You know that our media told you that. You don't know if that's true or not. It was a joke, says Mystic. That's all right. I'm not upset. I'm just talking. Reading is not the same as retaining information, says Favity. That's correct. That would be the other way. No Valentine this year for myself. Oh, I'll be your Valentine, Fab Daddy. Just don't expect any smooching. Quest VR says, do you remember me? I do. How are you? Welcome. All in all, you are all right, man. Thank you, Mystic. I don't agree with you at all, but you're not an asshat. Well, thank you, sir. And that's all right. There's nothing wrong with being disagreed upon. Most people in the adult world disagree with one another on various things. That does not mean we can't be friends. Take Fab Daddy, for example. He and I are on opposite sides of the spectrum as far as politics are concerned, as best as I can tell, and yet we're friends. Why is that? Because politics don't determine our lives. We have actual lives with actual people in them that have differing opinions all over the place. That's not a reason to dislike someone. It's just a political value. Ultimately, we're both on the same side because ultimately, above all, the color, we're both Americans and this is our home. And that's what matters. Our family and our friends matter more than our disagreeable politics. Fab Daddy says, I'll probably ask Julie to be my Valentine this year. That'll probably work out for you. I hope she says yes. She's a sweet girl. And you deserve a sweet girl, Fab Daddy. Just be nice to her. Valentine's Day, of course, is coming up very shortly. I hope everybody's got their significant other and ready to have a good day together. This is what I want you to keep in mind for that day. You two need each other. Doesn't matter what's going on. Doesn't matter what kind of gift you get. Doesn't matter what kind of money you spend. It doesn't matter at all. What matters is that you're together and that you put all problems aside for that day and just care for each other. That's it. If you do that, you'll have a good day, I promise. Fab Daddy says, if I hated everyone that thought politically different, I would hate half the people, right? Oh, Lisa Reen, will you be my Valentine? I'll send you a big heart. Boom, 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 boom. Amanda says, true, Fab. All right. I have an internet Valentine. You guys want to hear some music? Calm your little tail down, buddy. Anybody know that song? $10 points if you know that song. Yep, Guns and Posers. It is. Was a time when I wasn't sure, but you set my mind at ease. There ain't no doubt you're in my heart now. Something like that. Said, woman, take it slow, and the lights shine just bright. All we take it slow and you work yourself out fine. Man, I got what it takes to make it. We won't fake it. I will never break it. If I can't take it. Just trying to get it right. It's hard to see with so many around. And you know I don't like being stuck in the crowd. And the streets don't change, but maybe the names. I ain't got time for the games, but I need you. Yeah, I need you. I need you. I need you. Something like that, without all the screaming anyway. Can't scream anymore. I've lost my upper register. Can't sing like that anymore. All right. Now that you got me in the mood, pick a song, any song. Where it stops, nobody knows. Skylar, 1,000 years. 1,000 years to what? Pick a song in my wheelhouse. How about that? I don't know that song. I know a song about 10,000 years, but I don't know that one. Peter Gabriel. Peter Gabriel. Sledgehammer, maybe? I don't know. Which one? Pick one. Free Falling or Won't Back Down? Which one you want? I can't do both at the same time. Actually, I probably could, but I don't want to think that much right now. You want them back to back? No, I won't back down. No, I won't back down. In a world that's trying to drag me down. No, I won't back down. I'm gonna stand my ground. No, I know my rights. I've got just one night. In a world that's trying to break me down. No, I won't back down. No, I won't back down. Hey, baby, there ain't no easy way out. Hey, I won't back down. I'll stand my ground. She's a bad girl. She loves mama. She loves horses and America too. She loves cheese fries. She's crazy about Elvis, her daddy, and her boyfriend too. miss her. I'm bad, breaking her heart, but I'm free. Free fall. Yeah, I'm free. Free fall. It's alright if you love me. It's alright if you don't. I'm not afraid of you running away, baby. I just can't tell you wrong. Break down when it gets to me. Break down, take it to the night. Break down, break down. It's alright. Too high for me. It's alright. All right, Tom Petty is rolling in his grave right now. Well, hopefully. That would be nice. Then he could start playing his music again and I would be able to stop. You got a problem with that? I don't. Muskrat Blues. Come on now, I don't know what that is. It's late in the evening. She's wondering what clothes to wear. Puts on the makeup, brushes her long blonde hair, and then she asked me, do I look alright? I said no, you look horrible tonight. Go to a party, everyone turns to see this beautiful lady wandering around with me. And then she asked me, as we turn around, she says, my darling, you are terrible tonight. What? I'm here terrible because I see the love light in your eyes and the wonder of it all that you just don't realize how much I hate you. It's time to go home now. got an aching head. Handle my car keys. Oh, and she helps me to bed. And then she asks me, as I turn out the lights, she said, my darling, you were terrible tonight. It's my darling, you were terrible tonight. There you go. MAGA. All right. Donald Trump 2024. Thank you, Mickey. Michi. One of those names. Thanks for subscribing there, Mintam. Nice job, Jake. Thank you, dear. Thank you very much. You guys having a good time so far? I'm having a blast. I hope you are. Fab Daddy says, George Harrison, question mark, ×3. Well, yep. That is his name. No, I don't know any George Harrison. I don't think. I might. I can't think of one that I know, though. I'm back. Well, that's amazing, Xavier. I'm forward. Small world. Ba-da-da-ba-da-da. Is it just me or did it get really hot in here? Work up a sweat playing music. It got it running all through me. Amanda says, like, subscribe, share, and support Jake, please. Thank you, ma'am. We're doing better. We got 9 people in chat and only 6 likes. That means 3 of you. 3 of you haven't pressed that like button yet. 3. It's free. What's the holdup? Because you're on fire, love. Goodness gracious, great balls of fire. I'm left front when people are right back. That's right, Fab Daddy. You got the joke. Oh, what a beautiful day it is. I'm glad you guys are here. I'm glad you're hanging out with me tonight. I miss y'all. I missed you last night. I started to go live in the restaurant, but I thought people would stare at me, so I figured I wouldn't do that. But it was good to be with my sister. I recommend you all get one of these if you enjoy a stogie like I do occasionally. They'll send it to you. And it's chock full of very expensive cigars. My address is... No, I'm just kidding. You're left of center anyway, aren't you, Fab Daddy? Like from a starting point. Lisa Reen says, crazy amount of buffering for me tonight. Ugh. But my darling, you look wonderful tonight. Thank you, dear. I'm sorry about the buffering. Best burn is pulling alongside a driver and tell them their keys are in the door at a stoplight. Oh. That's about as bad as telling somebody their shoes are untied when they're wearing boots. Or their zippers down when they're wearing slacks. Or gym pants. Funny, funny, funny. You know what's really funny, though? Go riding with somebody and stick your arm out the door. And when they stop at a stoplight, when they take off, start tapping the side of the door with your hand like this, but do it in time with the speed that you're going. So speed up as they speed up. And just keep doing it, but keep a straight face. And just do it with the palm of your hand. And they'll think they have a flat tire and I'll start freaking out. I did that to my mom once. It was hilarious. Yeah, Fab, but that won't work anymore, says Amanda. Most new cars don't even have keys. They have key fobs. Well, you can tell them their key fob is in the door and watch their brains go into that mode that Windows goes into when the little wheel starts turning. That's always fun. Your key fob, it's in the door. What? Their brains will start making that modem sound from the 90s. I feel like people do that when I go down rabbit holes sometimes. I watch their eyes glass over. It's kind of funny. They're like, surely you don't lay awake at night thinking these things. Oh, yes, I do. Probably why I can't get nothing done. Too busy in here. So that you can have something to laugh at on a Friday night, Saturday night. Speaking of which, what can we get into? We got some time left. I think it's only 9:30. Please do hit that subscribe button, press the bell icon so you get notifications of when I'm going to be online. Smash that like button if you haven't done so already. It's free. It's effortless. It really does help the channel with the algorithms. Helps us get recommended to other people. That's what you want. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what you're thinking about. Question me, curse me, bless me, challenge me, confront me, conform me, drink my own Kool-Aid. Drink your own Kool-Aid as long as you're being critical. That's what I want. Critical thought coming from that brain of yours. And hey, if you love the music and you can dig what I'm doing and you see the value in what I'm trying to build here and you'd like to help out, or if you'd like to pat me on the back and say, nice job, Jake, buy yourself a cup of coffee, you can do that. You can support my work by going to paypal.me/Jake Johnson Band, paypal.me/Jake Johnson Band. Or if you're a Cash App user, you can go to $Jake Johnson Band, $Jake Johnson Band. Every little bit helps. It's a win-win. It's a blessing for me. But it's a blessing for you too, because we live in a reciprocal universe, and God, he tends to notice these things. Seriously. Amanda says, LOL, Jake. Well, I'm glad you haven't seen me going down the rabbit holes. LOL, thanks. Are you trying to compete with me? Because you'll lose. Do you understand that Biden is leading the world to a third furious war? But at the same time, the nuclear potential and hypersonic missiles are many times greater. Person with a Russian name and a question mark at the end of it, like you don't know your own name for sure? Yes, I understand that. And I also understand that there's no such thing as nuclear bombs. I'm sorry. The test footage was fake. Go back and watch it if you don't believe that. And from the 40s. And nobody's ever used one. Oh, Nagasaki, Hiroshima. Go look at some of those photographs. You tell me. Anyway, whether we do or do not have that technology at our fingertips, and whether anyone else does or does not, is irrelevant, because it's going to get worse before it gets better, and it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. All things are going to pan out the way they pan out, and they always will. They always have, they always will, and you're just a cog in that wheel. No matter how upset you get about it, it will not change the outcome, not one little iota. So live within your means, take care of what's yours, love the people that are close to you, fight for what you believe in, and stay to yourself, and read your Bible. And all things will work out like they're supposed to. Nope, I follow your rabbit holes, says Amanda. Aw, that's sweet. Gerard Way for president? I don't know who Gerard Way is. But if he's a good guy, so be it. Which part of our Constitution is true? The Supreme Court can and will change it. Yeah, they have been known to do that a time or two. All of our Constitution is true, and very few people left in the world actually respect that document for what it was meant to be. But there it is. Biden can't even lead himself across the stage, says Lisa-Reen. Amen, sister, to that. Man, this is right, Lisa-Reen. Cold Creek Croft, what's up, brother? Operation Crossroads says you're full of it and you don't believe in nuclear weapons? Were you joking? I hope. I can barely handle the plants are not alive thing. Well, this is an entertainment channel, so that's for your discretion to decide. Is he joking? Is he for real? Can I go look? I'll tell you what I'll do. I will put together a series of questions that can be answered by everybody and a series of video clips from the past, and we'll analyze them together and come up with a consensus as to what we all believe. How about that? I am not married to any ideas. Ideas are meant to be challenged. Ideas are meant to be fodder for critical thought. I'm not stuck on any particular belief system other than God, and I've been convinced of that. But what that means is up in the air. Other than that, it's all wishy-washy. So I'm only halfway serious, but serious enough that I'd look into it. I can think of the first question on the test anyway. Here you go. I just got up from a nap, so I'm compromised. I hear you, brother. I hear you. Here's the question. And you can answer it now or later, or we can answer it together on a podcast when I put it together, and we can do it live. But the first question of the many questions that I have to ask is, what is the name of the company that produces and facilitates regular maintenance on nuclear weapons? And don't say Northrop Grumman, because that's not it. That's the first question. They get harder. But it is a question I'd like to know the answer to, because to my knowledge, such a company doesn't exist. And my knowledge is limited, of course. I'm stuck in this room. I'm only able to analyze the things that I can see with my own eyes. But it's a question I'd like to know the answer to. This is like arguing about the moon landing being real. Raytheon. Raytheon does not have a facility in this area that does that. If you live in the area, go out towards Nevada, and you can find where they have nuclear weapon silos all over the place out there. Just tell me who's maintaining it. That's all I want to know. It's not Raytheon. They do make weapons. They don't make that weapon. The best of my ability to understand and the looking that I've done into this subject, which isn't much, I'll give you that. I'm not an expert, and I haven't done a great deal of searching for the answers to these questions. But to the best of my ability, they were made with 1940s technology in the 50s. And that's it. They still have that technology. They have not been maintained. There is no government spending bill for those things. That you can go look at the budget. There are some black site stuff, but there's no telling what that is. And I can't attribute that to that because there's no telling what that is. It's just redacted. You don't know. So whatever. The Air Force? Nope. Nope. Again, the Air Force is a public American organization, and you can go look at their budget. Creep. You're a creep. How about that, Ava? The Atomic Commission. Well, what's the Atomic Commission? It sounds nice, but is there a real such thing? I don't think there is. Am I beating my meat? Ava, be nice. There are ladies present. And yes, I am beating my meat. See? Wait, let me get my Golden Eagle security and find out that from the Pentagon. Well, you don't have to. The Pentagon keeps a budget and you can go read it. You don't have to be a secret member of the Pentagon to understand where your tax dollars go. See, that's the thing that gets people. They assume that there's this mysterious force out there that does all of these things without question. They just assume that it's being done. But it takes people, it takes manpower. Where are the schools that teach people how to do these jobs? What college do they attend? What courses do they take? I bet you didn't even know that it's not illegal for you to own a warship. I bet you didn't know that. I bet you didn't know that you could own nuclear weapons. You could. It's in the Constitution. You didn't know that, did you? Most people don't. Most people assume that laws are in place to stop things like that. However, there's not. And that's kind of the point I'm getting at. This is a very cursory early rabbit hole. So don't think that I'm set on not knowing anything. I'm not telling you that anything is fake. I'm just asking questions. I don't know. And by the way, there's some fuckery involved in the moon landing too there, Cold Creek Croft. I hate to tell you that, but it's true. And if you look into it, you'll see it just as I did. I don't doubt for a second that we went to the moon. I very much doubt that we saw it on TV in a live broadcast in 1969. I do. Because, and I'll tell you why I think that, NASA is not a private organization. It is a member of the military class. It's another branch of military, just like the Air Force or the Marines. NASA, it's a government facility, military operation, and they do that because at the time we were in what's called the Cold War with Russia, and it was militarily strategic that we get to the moon first. It's necessary. Why? Because there are strategies that can be derived from that position. The moon is strategically located so that if war broke out, you would want to have the high ground. It literally is the high ground. So we had to get there because of military. Go look. That's the reason they decided to do it. It was John F. Kennedy that put out the call to make it get done for military purposes. Well, if I were a general and I were doing something for strategic military purposes, I would not broadcast it to my enemies. That's called top secret stuff. That's what militaries do. They do covert operations so the enemy doesn't know what they're doing, so that they can't combat it or put a hitch in their giddy up. So if they, in fact, did go to the moon, which I have no doubt that they could go to the moon, except for a couple of things, like the Van Allen radiation belt that they didn't know about until the 80s. They didn't know about that. And you can't go through it or you'll die. But I digress. That's neither here nor there. Also, they brought film through it. Try to take a canister of film through a scanner at an airport and see what happens. And if that thing will do it, you know, how did they do that? But they made a phone call from the surface of the moon to a landline in Washington, D.C. without having brought anything to transmit such a broadcast. But I digress. I'm not going down that rabbit hole. If I were a military leader, I would not broadcast my strategic locations to the world. But the military ultimately is relying upon funding from taxpayers. So the taxpayer had to be invested in it. That's how they got the money to do it. Ergo, they probably did some shenanigans. Do I know that? No. I know that about as well as I know how to get to the moon, but it wouldn't surprise me. I was Como in Army? You mean, what does that mean? Commando? You didn't wear underwear in the Army? Is that what you're saying? But no, Cold Creek Croft, I don't doubt we went to the moon much. I don't doubt we have nuclear weapons much, despite the fact we've never used one. And before you go, well, we used it in Nagasaki, Hiroshima. No, those were hydrogen bombs. That's not a nuclear bomb. There was no plutonium involved. So I realize I'm splitting hairs here, but yes, there is a difference. Hello, I'm back for a couple of days ago. Well, welcome, Priest Luth. I remember you. Fab Daddy says communication. Oh, you were communications in the Army. Okay, that makes sense. Cool. So you understand about line of sight and things like that, right? So explain to me how in 1969 they could make a call from the moon to a landline on planet Earth, which still went through operators at that time, through Ma Bell. Because you can go look on NASA's website and you can see what they took on that trip. There's everything that every nut and bolt is accounted for. What's not there is a broadband satellite dish or anything to transmit such a signal from the surface of the moon back to planet Earth. They barely had comms. They could talk to Houston or whatever, but there should have been, and which there wasn't. If you go back and look, there wasn't, but mysteriously there is now. But I was there. I remember the trips to the moon and back. I remember watching it on TV while it was happening, not reruns. Not the first one, but the other ones. The first one was in 69. I was born in 74, so the other 10 missions I saw. Anyway, there should be an 8-second delay. But President Nixon had a conversation with Neil Armstrong in real time on national television. Explain it to me. Since you were in communications, you might know the answer. I don't. You can now link satellites to landlines. They could not do that in 1969. There were no satellites up there to link to. Lisa Reed says, I want a warship and a wood chipper. And a wood chipper. Yes, ma'am. Transmissions can be relayed with a simple copper wire from the surface of the moon. No, it cannot. I'm sorry. It can't. Now, I would believe that if they could get a signal from the moon to Dallas, then they could convert that signal into an audio wave. Oh, wait, they don't have audio files back then. This is all analog. They could record it on a tape and then play it back in real time over a phone line, like fax machine type, to DC, and the president could then respond to it. But once you go down that rabbit hole, then that could come from anywhere at any time because it's not real. That's what I mean by fuckery. Doesn't mean it didn't happen. It just means that it wasn't what it was presented to be, which is a real-time phone conversation, the president on a phone talking to the people on the moon. That's what everybody perceived it to be, and that's what they sold it as. But that was not possible in 1969. I don't care what anybody says. Radio waves do leave Earth all the time, but they don't transmit back and forth in real time a conversation from two different locations in the universe. This idea that you could fly out to the edge of space and pick up I Love Lucy's radio waves is nonsense. Yes, the information is there. No, you can't watch it on TV. And they did analog too, Fab Daddy. So that's good. My equipment was from the 50s, and you're saying that you could send a signal to the moon with a copper wire. I would have to see that. Walter Davis, what's up, my brother? Good to see you. We're having a heated discussion about the moon landing. You want to join? No, I don't. I don't have any particular stance on the subject other than some fuckery was afoot during that situation. Cold Creek Croft, I think he tapped out. I don't think he could handle it when I said there was no such thing as nuclear weapons. But I, again, am not married to any ideas. I just want to see some evidence. That's all. I want you to think about, instead of taking for granted what you've been fed, I want you to think about the world you live in. That's all. Am I gay? Do I look gay? Do you get gay vibes from me? Fab Daddy says yes. Okay, well, please show me how that's done. Draw a diagram so I can see it. Show me the frequencies that are involved. Show me what piece of equipment could do that, and it has to be prior to 1969. If it didn't exist then, it don't exist now. David, don't make me have to hurt you. Yeah, what kind of question was that, right? Not sure, says Priest Luth. Walter Davis says, hi, Jake, Lisa Reen, Fab Daddy, Montana, Amanda. What's up, Walter? Good to see you, buddy. Come on back, Cold Creek Croft. And nice flag. Can I get one? Sure you can. They sell them at Walmart, probably. You have to ask Kevin where he got that one, because Kevin sent that one to me as a gift. I'm not exactly sure where it came from. But they're out there. Yeah, you can get one. Kevin Cox, ask him. Did I fart? No. Hello, Walter. Long time no see, says Lisa Reen. My uncle was in the Navy when they were blowing up islands in the Pacific. I guess that's what that means. Right. I mean, when they were testing the weaponry in the 40s. Amanda says Amazon has them and many more. Nice conversation change, Fab Daddy. I don't think he was intending to change the conversation, but so what did your uncle learn, Walter, about what was being done in the 40s? Let's talk about fallout. Let's talk about radiation burns and things like that. Because I am interested. I'd like to know. I remain unconvinced, but I could go either way. I'm not opposed to believing in such things. I just want to hear something that makes a little sense other than, look at this cartoon that the Discovery Channel made. He was a frog and on a salvage tug. He watched nukes and dove down to the boats they sunk after nuclear explosions. Okay. Okay, to be clear, when I say nuclear weapon, I mean enriched uranium or plutonium device, which occurs shortly after the bomb detonates. You have what's known as fallout, which is where this dust from the plutonium goes everywhere, and it irradiates everything in its path for a great deal of time. That's a nuclear weapon. It's a mega destructive device, and it leaves a footprint for quite some time afterwards. So if the explosion don't kill you, the sickness that comes thereafter most likely will. And it's a lot worse than just burns. So that's what I mean when I say nuclear device. I'm not talking about an atom bomb or a hydrogen bomb. I'm not talking about the mother of all bombs. I'm not talking about anything like that. While those are some devastating weapons, they are not nuclear bombs. So let's get the terminology right so that I'm not accused of not believing in something that obviously exists. How do submarines talk to the commanders on the surface? Well, Fab Daddy, they don't unless they're right below them. Sorry. The only way that you can communicate through the air in a submarine is to be directly below the source. If they're out 100 yards, they're not communicating. How do I know that? Because that's one of the problems that the submarine that just imploded at the Titanic had. They couldn't communicate with the surface either because they were not underneath the boat. And we have cell phones now. Apparently they don't work under the ocean either. Hi, Larry, says Amanda. Lots of deleted messages. Are you guys being ridiculous over there? Cold Creek Croft says low frequency transmission, yo. Water is dense, and that's why LFT can transmit through the ocean. Okay. Walter says he's almost blind. He was too close to one time when they were towing an old destroyer across the boiling water, and the destroyer started sinking because the density of boiling water was less than, yes, if you're in boiling water, you can't stay afloat because buoyancy changes. You're absolutely right about that. And yes, sound does travel very well underwater, but that doesn't mean you can pick it up. Doesn't mean you can receive it. You can use a sonar underwater and you can transmit information underwater, but you have to be within line of sight of the thing you're communicating with, or it does not work unless there's some really, really high technology involved. Now that I know for sure because this was a couple of $1 million submarine that went down and they could not communicate with the surface. They could not. And we have cell phones. So unless you're telling me that most submarines are not equipped with ways to talk to the ship that they were deployed from. If that's the case, that's retarded. Why would anybody get in one of those things? Amanda says, yep, they are. Walter says, Norma. Fab Daddy says, that sounds like talking to someone on the moon talk, right? That's exactly right. I'm not saying it didn't happen. I'm just asking, how did it happen? What is the actual way that it occurred? Because I do not know. And I have a degree in electronics technology, so I understand what I'm talking about to some degree. And I don't know how they did it. Walter says, normal water, the destroyer almost pulled them under. It was his job to cut the chain. Said it was pretty close to disaster. I bet it was. Submarines are designed to operate autonomously without support ships. Well, the big nuclear ones are. I'll give you that. The regular submarines that people can get into, no, sir. You have to have a support ship. If you don't believe that, go look at the one that just imploded and you'll see what I mean. I'm not talking about like Red Dawn. Hunt for Red October type submarines. I'm talking about normal submarines. But yeah, I'm sure they've got some technology that you'd probably go to prison for taking a photograph on the bridge or something like that. I believe that happened recently. Fabiday says that sub was attached by cable, but nothing matters after implosion. Less than a second. No, it was not attached by a cable. Or they would have pulled it up. They couldn't pull it up because it wasn't attached. They lost contact because it was too far down for them to send a signal back up to the boat. They went too far that way instead of that way, away from the boat. So they could not communicate with it. So they just had to wait to see if it would resurface, and it never did. It imploded. They were down there for 2 days before it imploded, according to what I've read. This is secondhand information, so if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But well, that's true. Smallers do, right? Yeah, I don't know what's on a nuclear submarine because it's top secret, obviously, so I can't speak to that. But I can talk about submarines that I could get on. And I wouldn't get on one of those things. Those things are death traps. The Geiger counter was off the charts, says Walter. They scrubbed for hours to get low enough. Most on the ships died pretty soon from cancer, right? I fall victim to a basic Sherlock Holmes warning. Absence of evidence is not necessarily evidence of absence. If you do not understand something, you go off the wall. Cold Creek Croft, I understand perfectly, and I'm not suggesting anything that is absent of evidence is evidence of absence. This isn't one of those things. And no, I'm not falling victim to anything. I'm just asking questions. And if they're off the wall, if it's off the wall to you for me to ask a question, something's wrong with the way you process information. Because I have to ask questions to learn answers to things that I don't know about. And I've started this conversation with, I don't know for sure, but I think. And that usually indicates that I'm not talking about something I consider to be factual. Of course, curly fries. What kind of question is that? I'm American, aren't I? Walter says, very low sound waves, radio waves, more through water, similar to sonar. Correct. Well, I know how sonar works. You have to have a receiver and you have to have something for the sound to bounce off of, or it doesn't work. Which is why it sounds like a ping unless it hits something. Ping. You ever heard that in the movies? Doo-doo, doo-doo, whatever that sound is. That's it not hitting something. If it hits something, it makes a different sound. And then you can guess what it is based on the volume of the sound or whatever. I don't know what bro tapping is or what it's about. I cannot discuss that with the internet, Curly. Xavier says, I'm back again. Also, just for the sake of argument, Cold Creek Croft, I'm not hearing a lot of explanations coming from the guy who clearly knows more than I do about the subject. So, no, I'm not really falling prey to any particular Dunning-Kruger effect or mental lackadaisical, whatever you want to call it. I'm not that guy. I'm just asking questions because I don't know the answer, and I'm pretty sure nobody else here does either. But if they do, I would like to hear it. Because then I would know more. And that's the goal, to learn more about my environment. What I am certain of is that from a very, very early time before me, we have been steadily spoon-fed bullshit till it's coming out of our ears. This is a carefully constructed facade that we live in. It is a simulation, for lack of a better word. Lack of a better word means I don't have a better way to describe it because we're not in a simulation, but it's pretty close. Bunch of false dichotomies and false decisions to make and false things, bread and circuses all over the place. I do know that. And once you begin to wake up to that understanding, you begin to question everything. And I'm just on in right now. Nuclear weapons. That's where I'm at. I'm questioning everything. I'm going through all my belief systems and trying to make some kind of checks and balances on what I actually believe versus what reality says to me. Some things I've found to be completely horseshit. Some things I found to be true. I hadn't married myself to anything yet. I would suggest everyone do the same thing, because if you're comfortable believing the mushrooms that are fed to you in the dark, then there's no reason to question anything or have any kind of conversation. Just go with the flow and be a drone. I'm not one of those people. I'm not a non-player character. I have to know the answer to things. So it's a no-sum game to argue. I have no desire to spend time convincing you of anything. I have other things to do. Well, so be it. That's not how conversations work, but if that's the way you feel about it, I understand. I would never say that. I always have time, especially if you don't understand something and I do. Because that's kind of the point, isn't it? Walter says low frequency is what we hear. High frequency is AM or CB radio. High frequency is FM. Ultra high frequency is ham radio. Yes. I had a friend who was ... says Walter. Cole says, believe in nothing, and that's what you'll stand for. Well, I clearly believe in something. Now you're just throwing attacks at me. That's not fair. You know well that I don't believe in nothing. I just don't believe in nonsense that people try to shove down my throats by insulting me into agreeing with them. I don't work that way. Because I'm not easily insulted, for one thing. I know where I stand. I know what I'm capable of. So, I don't care how you view me. I know what I am. People that love me know what I am. So what's the point in hurling insults at me because you don't like the question I asked? I enjoy engaging in arguments, but when it gets to anything that I absolutely believe in, can't do it. Why? Have you ever asked yourself that question? If you believe in it so strongly, why is it a problem for you to talk about it? Are you scared I might say something that would confuse you or make you doubt yourself? I wonder. When it gets to the moon landing or that nuclear weapons aren't nukes, plants aren't alive, you don't know who maintains nukes. So it's all a big conspiracy. No. You say, here, go back and look. That's what you say all the time. You get back to me. No. This happened in this conversation. I don't have to go back. I remember saying it. I said, this is just a thing we talked about. You walked in while we were mentioning it. However, I will put together a video with a list of questions and videos to back it up. One of those questions is who maintains the facilities. That's one question out of many that I have. I said that then, I say it again. That's not, I don't know how something is done, so I believe it doesn't exist. It's not what that means. That means I'm interested in knowing how it works. So you are misunderstanding the situation, not me. UFC Life. Hello, man. Hello. You can say nothing to doubt me. Not trying to. I've been on Earth almost 15 years longer than you, and it shows, does it now? Really? It's not how long you've been here. It's what you accomplish while you're here. Walter says, I had a friend who was into the local observatory. They knew the coordinates for the American flag on the moon and saw it. My guess is we put it there. I'd say so. I didn't say we didn't go to the moon. That's what you want me to think, or what you think you want me to think, or whatever. I didn't say that. I said there's some fuckery involved in the moon landing. I said that if we went, to be sure they didn't show the first time on TV for everyone to see. That's what I said. If you believe they did, one of two things is true at that point. Either you've been lied to, or our military are morons. That's possible too. UFC says, facts, bro. You sound like my grandpa. That's not bad. Just letting you know. Thank you, UFC. Your grandpa must have been a wise man. Do you ever feel depressed? Yeah, everybody does. It's part of life. You know how to overcome that, though? Get busy. Put your mind on something. Focus. Make it about something other than you, and you can get through it. And then you'll find out there wasn't any real reason to be depressed anyway. You just have a chemical imbalance or something. Or maybe you didn't eat enough pork. Who knows? Nuke fairies. Who scrubs the toilets on subs? Well, I know the answer to that. Are you sure? Read the budget. I can, and I can show you who does it. See, there's the difference. Cold Creek Croft, you just answered the question for me. I can show you who cleans the toilets. I know where they work. I know the name of the company that does it. I can find it anyway. I don't know it off the top of my head because I don't live in New York. But I assure you there is a sanitation company that does it. And I assure you they get paid like everybody else. That's not a good example, but I appreciate the effort. That does mean something. Walter says, hi, Ian. How have you been? Priest Luth says, Cold Creek don't... It disappeared on me. Okay. Ian says, good. Why? Touchy. Switch, do you support Hitler? Well, I'm 49 years old and I was born and raised in the South in America. Of course, you don't even have to ask that question because you know the answer. There is an American flag behind my head. Do I support Hitler? Amanda says, Priest Luth, this is nothing new from them. They argue or disagree, or argue to disagree, right? We get into it every now and then. That's all right. That's what friends do. What kind of question is that? My point exactly. Cole says, I lived through that. I witnessed it. And man, I do feel sorry for you, but being able to accept mankind's greatest triumph. Spoken like a true lemur. I lived through it too. 11 times, 10 times. I didn't go see the first one because it was right before I was born, but every other one I was there. I remember the hype. I remember seeing them on TV. I remember the interviews. Oh, that's right. They didn't do interviews. Greatest achievement of mankind, but they didn't do but one interview. I encourage you to go watch that interview. I'm not even going to tell you what to look for. Just go watch it. Oh, by the way, when they came back from the moon, they were put in a camper trailer for 2 weeks before they were allowed out. But they could come up to the window and talk to the reporters on the outside because they were in quarantine. When you see that, I would like for you to notice the air conditioner that's on the top of the little camper trailer. Just notice it, that's all. And then ask yourself, what's the point in quarantine? Why do you quarantine somebody? Because you're afraid they might have a pathogen and you don't want to contaminate the rest of the world. Or you put out a camper trailer so that everybody that's watching thinks that, so that you can put on some theater for them to watch. Because you and I both know that camper trailers are not airtight. They could be made to be airtight, but not with an air conditioner on the roof. I'm just asking. Cole says, settle down, Priest Luth. We do this all the time, right? We're just leaning into the madness. We're not actually mad at each other. At least I hope we're not. I'm not. Sometimes it's fun to sharpen your teeth. You know what I'm saying, Priest Luth? People like us don't have a lot of people that we can sword fight with. I'm speaking for myself here. I'm not speaking for Cold Creek Croft, but I assume it's a similar thing, that it's good to get in a joust every now and then. He's going to come back. I'm going to come back. We're going to talk offline. It's just the way it is. It doesn't matter ultimately whether we agree with each other or we just flat out hate the conversation. It's just a conversation. Doesn't mean anything. What matters is humanity. That's what matters ultimately. And if you'll watch me tomorrow night, we'll talk about that very thing. So it's not being lost on this channel that the most important thing is to band together as a community, regardless of your differences. That doesn't matter. What matters is that you have a community. Amanda says, it's all good, Priest Luth. Cole says, show me. I'm waiting. Show you what? I can't show you. I'm on the phone that I'm using to make this video with. But it's public. You can just go look anywhere. You can go to nasa.gov. That's the website. I'm sure they still have videos of it up. And if you can't find it there, you can certainly find it on YouTube because lots and lots of people have been picking that video apart for decades now. So I'm sure it's there. But try to find an unedited version of it. That's the first thing. Try to find one that there's no commentary on or a way that you can ignore the commentary because that will influence the way you're thinking while you're watching it. I want you to watch those people and tell me as a human being what you think you're looking at. That's what I want. Because I don't know a lot. But number one, I can promise you with 100% certainty, and I'm pretty sure everyone in this chat will agree with me 100%. If I had just came back from the freaking moon, I would not be somber. I would be ecstatic. I would tell everyone that would listen what I'd just done. I would not look like somebody just smacked me in the mouth for saying something I shouldn't say. There's something wrong with that interview. The only one that I'm aware of that exists with the 3 astronauts that went on that journey to sit in front of cameras and be asked questions. The only one that I know of. Yeah, there's been some interviews with individuals later on, but they're like the typical news interview where they might get asked one question or they're pressed for time so they get like a minute to respond or a second, 30 seconds to respond. It's that kind of thing. This is the only debriefing interview that exists of the 3 astronauts, and it's telling in a few ways, especially if you understand anything about psychology, and you do because you're a writer. I know you've looked into these things. Just watch that video. Remove the scales from your eyes. Don't come into it with any biases. Don't even assume that we've been to the moon. Just watch those 3 men and tell me what you see before you. I'm not even going to tell you what to think. You tell me. Walter says, I don't think they could film it with what we had then, and remake was done when they landed. I know that according to the roster, according to the, the inventory of what they took with them, they had 4 Hasselblad cameras with them. I believe it was 4. I might be wrong about that number. But a Hasselblad camera you can find, they make them still. I think the company still exists, but they made them then for sure. And they ordered stock cameras. They were not modified in any way. They were built differently at the company. Only this, they had a trigger and a handle like a pistol grip added to them. That was the modification. They were not put in any kind of sealed box. They were not wrapped up with, any kind of insulation. They were a metal chassis camera with all the little moving parts and the little sensor and everything, just like you would buy out of the store, stock cameras. The only difference is these had a trigger because they had to wear gloves, so they needed to be able to click the camera that was mounted on their chest with their right hand. That's the only difference. As far as a video camera, the only one that I'm aware of was the one that they took with them. And it's a regular news type video camera of that time. It's probably pretty big. I don't remember. Priestley says, okay, I'm sorry, Cold Creek. I can assure you there are qualified people maintaining nuclear weapons. Well, fine. So who are they? An assurance comes with some assurance. I'm open to that. I just would like to know what company it is or who it is that's doing it. Because to my knowledge, and I do look around, there is no new technology developed in that area. None that's available to the public anyway. There may be some that's top secret. I can't speak to that because I don't know. But nothing that's in the world that you can access or look at, no plans. They just aren't doing it. So it's a curious question. Who's doing the maintaining? Because surely they're not still operating under 1940s technology, and if so, do they even work? Because I've got some stuff around here that's from the 80s that don't work anymore. I've got video games that there's nothing on planet Earth that can play them, like the game Myst for the Windows 98 or 95, whatever it was. You can put Windows 95 on a modern computer, but the processor is too fast. It can't play that game anymore. It'll go by like super fast. You won't be able to play it. Doom is another one. So technology has superseded what it was at that time, which was largely vacuum tubes and small transistors. So obviously they've had to be upgraded. So who did the upgrade? Obviously they've had to have modern tracking systems put in them and ignition systems and detonators and all of that stuff, because that's how a missile works. So who designed that? Where did it come from? Where are the plans for the guidance system that works on modern technology, like an iPhone? Where's the app for that? I'm just saying, there's a little something weird going on, and nobody's addressing it, so I'm the asshole, right? Okay, so be it. Switch says, good, thank you. That's why we're here. Sorry, my friend stole my phone. Well, did your friend get charged with a crime? Because those things are expensive. Why the doubt about filming it? I didn't doubt filming it. They had an active radio and cam that they put on the surface, started it up and let it roll. And it was basic radio. Okay. So, you know, when they took off from the moon, right? And the camera that was there panned up as they went off to watch it go up in the air. Two questions. How did they pan it? And how did they retrieve the tape? Because, as you know, digital video did not exist at that time. So how did they get that information? Was there a big long rope attached to it, and when they got off the surface, it just yanked the camera up with them? Because we've got that footage. So either somebody stayed behind on the moon to operate the camera, or something's wrong with that image. Just ask. But yes, I understand basic radio. I can build a radio. I have done so. So I understand how that works. I also know that radio, for the most part, requires on line of sight. You can't send a radio signal over the hill, so to speak. That's why we have towers. They did tons of interviews, did they now? Where are all these interviews? There's a few interviews of individual guys talking to media. Like Buzz Aldrin has done a few, more than anybody else. No, yeah, Buzz Aldrin. What's the other? Neil Armstrong hardly did any interviews at all. Matter of fact, he pretty much stayed away from that whole thing. He didn't want to be famous. The other guy, I can't even remember his name, Gary something or other. Anyway, he's probably done an interview or two. But again, these are news media interviews. They're pressed for time. They have very limited answers. They're asked softball questions. It's not a debriefing. There's only one debriefing video. And that's right after they got out of quarantine, they did a press conference. And I'm telling you to go watch that video. You can see it with your own eyes. Then you can report back to me what you thought about it, if you wish. Lisa Reen says, if I had a nickel for every lie that I have been told by our news, government, and politicians, I would be the wealthiest gal anyone knows. Lisa Reen, I hear you, dear. And that is true, unfortunately. I don't like it either. But unfortunately, we have been fed mushrooms for a long time. There's not any truth coming out of the media. Very little, if there is any. It's always some kind of agenda. It's always some kind of spin. They have a word for it. Spin. Absolutely, Lisa Reen, says Amanda. Cole says, wow. I'll see you later, because they had no clue about lunar germs. Holy hell. Then why 2 weeks? It was positive pressure. Okay. Positive pressure in a non-airtight environment? How does that work? You mean like at a hospital? There's a reason that when there's a quarantine that they shut down hospitals and then tape the doors off and all the windows. When the CDC has to come in and they seal everything and lock everybody inside the hospital, because positive pressure will not stop an outbreak of a germ, because germs are airborne. And they tend to find little cracks, crevices to get out. Holy hell. Positive pressure is the same thing used in high quarantined intensive care. It is not airtight. The idea is higher pressure inside. I understand that. Grocery stores use that too, by the way. It helps keep the meat from rotting. That is why it never was airtight. Okay. That's also not quarantine. Not that kind of quarantine anyway. This kind of quarantine is airtight. Like if we had a zombie outbreak or some big virus, like you would think they would have done for the CDC to do during COVID, but they never did it, is they make an airtight environment with plastic and then seal all of the people inside until they figure out what the problem is. Watch a movie. I know it's a movie, but still, they get the idea right. Whether it's ever been done or not, it's a different story. I don't know. But I do know that if you're worried about an alien pathogen, you don't allow it to escape. Ergo, airtight. That's just my thought on the subject. I might be wrong. It only has to be 15 MB higher. Is that megabytes? Than ambient, and it will act as an isolation chamber. Unless it's an airborne virus. And then everything creates the possibility for it to escape. Every movement, every burst of air, every open door, every hazmat suit that gets taken off in the airlock part. They're very cautious about that kind of thing. Because, as you can see, the world we live in isn't as nice as I would like it to be as far as keeping things airtight and contaminated things under lock and key, because they tend to get out from high facility labs in China. That's what I'm saying. Maybe it didn't escape from America, but it could have. Walter says, I have a friend who is ham radio operator. He talks to the International Space Station while driving his truck with a homemade antenna. Yes, sir. The International Space Station is 240 miles away from the ground, not 253,000 miles away from the ground. He would not be able to do that if they were on the moon. They are basically twice as high as the highest airplanes fly. Basically, there's a little bit of wiggle room there, but they're in the atmosphere pretty much. So, and he can only talk to them when they're overhead. He can't talk to them when they go over the Mercator. So that's line of sight. But yes, ham radio is very good at sending a signal a long way. A lot better than, say, CB radio is, because it's a little different technology. But, and also, they were having that problem back in the Sputnik days. That matter of fact, that's who discovered that Sputnik was flying overhead, was a ham radio operator. I'm back again. Xavier, I'm beginning to think you like to leave just to watch yourself come back. Walter says there was no video in 1969. It was film that needed to be developed. That is correct. That's my point. That's what I'm talking about. Also, if you've ever walked through a metal detector with a canister of film, you begin to realize that there's something wrong with the film when you have it developed. There's little spots all in it. Why? Because radiation has gone through it. Because that's how you make an X-ray. If they went through the Van Allen radiation belt, which, depending on who you talk to, you get two different numbers, either 1,000 miles across or 10,000 miles across. Basically, the Earth is enveloped by the Van Allen radiation belt. Look it up if you don't believe me. Somehow they passed through that 11 times before they figured out that it was there. They didn't know it was there. Go listen to Wernher von Braun, who is the inventor of the V2 rocket, which the space program is designed emulating that technology. Go listen to what he says about traveling around in space outside of the Earth's atmosphere shortly before all of the space race stuff began. Go listen to what he said. See what he thinks about it. The guy that invented the technology we use. He says something very peculiar. You should check that out. Wernher von Braun is his name. Yes, he was a German SS scientist who inexplicably found a job at NASA after the whole Hitler thing. Don't know how that happened. Walter says there was a lot of recreation of things like moon landings, takeoffs from the moon, and nuclear bomb explosions. Yeah. There was no idea what the surface of the moon was. They did not know if the lunar lander would sink in 100 feet of dust exactly, which is why you wouldn't have filmed it, because the chances of filming 3 people going to their death was very high, and they would not have put that live on television. At the very least, and I'm just saying at the very least here because I don't know, at the very least, there was a delay, and they checked it before they aired it. Keep in mind, they had the technology to broadcast a signal through the wires everywhere at that time. They had switching systems and stuff where they could send video in the form of a signal to different networks at that time. They did not do that, however. What they did was they brought it into NASA and then had it projected onto a wall, a big wall, like a plastered wall. So it was already degraded in image quality because it was a projection onto a surface that had a texture. And then they allowed the film crews from the different networks to come in and film the wall, which is why you got such a grainy picture of the moon landing in the first place, because it was a 3rd generation video by the time you got it. And that makes it 4th generation because it's coming through your little black and white TV. It was not a good image. You could barely even see what was going on. But they did that for a reason, so that they could control who saw what when. Now, what does that mean? I don't know. It could mean that they were a few hour delay there, so that in case something bad happened, they could cut the feed before it got out to the public that all those astronauts died. Because you're right. I remember them talking about, in retrospect, I watched it later, about not knowing what they were going to encounter, or even what the landing area would look like when they got there, which incidentally, he had to overshoot by about 100 miles because where he was supposed to land was full of rocks, and he thought that it would pierce the bottom of the ship if they tried to land there. So he went past it and landed where they landed, the Sea of Tranquility. Margie, welcome to the show. Miss Janine Kurinich, formerly of Chicago, relayed and accepted messages from astronauts during some lunar trips. A personal testimony from Jeanette. Interesting. I'm not suggesting there's no such thing as astronauts. That would be ridiculous. Walter says, if the pressure is higher inside, air leaks out of the higher outside, air leaks in. Yes. So I have a question. Just out of curiosity, it just popped into my head. Cold Creek Croft is going to blow his top when he hears this one. But it is a question I have, and I'd like an answer to it, if anybody could. Space is a vacuum, right? Earth is gas. Now, if you take gas and put it in a can and seal it, you have a contained box of gas. If you take that contained box of gas and shove it down into the ocean, if you shove it far enough, it will implode and all the gas will escape because of pressure. Well, I realize that an ocean is not analog for space, but if we live on a planet that is pressurized with gas at 1 atmosphere per meter, which is what it is. So you look at the scuba diving tanks, they're at the same pressure as the relative pressure of the gas on Earth. It is pressurized. How is it that we can go through it into space without leaking? And how is it that space, the vacuum, has not sucked all of the atmosphere off of the planet? I'm just curious. I would like to know the answer to that, because I don't remember that one in my textbooks. Walter says, at the end of the day, none of this has any importance in my life. Correct. Like the flat earth or round earth debates, the Bible and its teaching, and whoever wants to take me out is of concern, right? I agree. This is a show. I have to have things to talk about. It's better when I can get excited about it. There we go. Argue. That's what I'm good at. That's what I do. I'm asking legitimate questions. If you don't want to answer the legitimate question, I understand that. But if you do, I understand that too. But ultimately, this is a show. It's for entertainment value. Doesn't have any bearing on real life. Walter says, we had live feeds for news in the 50s using FM radio frequencies. Not claiming one or the other is right, but it was possible. Yes, it is possible. On Earth, with big towers and big satellite dishes. That is possible. You're absolutely right. I'm not suggesting it's not possible. However, if you would like to send a signal that can be read across space, which has no such satellite dishes or big antennas, you have to have something that receives it and something that sends it. And they have to be pretty powerful, because that's a long distance to send a signal like that. Because as you know, video has a lot more information in it than audio does. Audio is relatively simple. It's just a wave sign. You can send that on light, for that matter. You could shoot a beam of light and send audio signal through that. You cannot do that so easily with video. It can be done now because we have fiber octaves. But back then, they didn't have that. They needed a big satellite dish and a big receiver to send those signals around. That's just what they had. That's the technology. So I just asked, how did it happen? I don't know. I'm not suggesting it didn't happen. I'm suggesting I don't know how it did happen. So, which is a problem for me, personally. Doesn't mean you have to have a problem with it. You can believe it if you want to. Lisa Reen says, have you been watching Unchained? It's a guy. That's not his whole name. I have not been watching Unchained. Who is that? I guess I missed it. Walter says, magnetism. It's an electric universe. There is no such thing as gravity. It's proven by molecular science. There is something to that too, Walter, but apparently we've reached the threshold for conspiracy for this podcast. We'll get into magnetism another time because that's a big subject in and of itself. But I agree, there is something to that. Lisa Reen says he talks about the pressure and the gas situation and how that quote unquote science does not work in their vacuum of space. Well, that was my point. I have not been watching him, but I have had that question for many, many, many years. It does not add up. It does not make sense to me. The only way it would make sense is if we lived in a closed system, because that's how you contain gas. Otherwise, we would constantly be losing atmosphere. Lisa Reen, there is no vacuum in space, just less density. Well, how come all the scientists call space a vacuum? And they do. I agree with you, Walter. I don't think space is a vacuum, but if I said that, they would call me crazy. So I'm asking, how does this vacuum thing work? I know how vacuum works on Earth. I know what a vacuum line is. I know what suction is. I know what pressure and negative pressure is. How does that work in space? Because we live on a ball pressurized by gas with no ceiling in space. The whole thing. I just want to know how that works. I think it's fascinating. I think God is awesome. I think he can do anything, including hold this earth together. That being said, somebody'd have to be, because if it's left to its own devices, there would be no atmosphere, because we live on a rock in space, which is pressurized. Either it's sealed and you can't escape it, or there's something else happening there. What's up, Goofy? What's the wildest myth story you have? Well, Jared, I have quite a few wild myth stories, but I will keep them between me and my partner. But, maybe one day. Lisa Reen says, there is no space, LOL. If there is, we cannot go there. Haven't gone there, and I don't want to unless it is heaven. Amen, sister. I'm not going to go that far because I can see it, but as to what it is, that's something we could debate. I do have some theories. They're all theories because clearly I haven't been up there. I don't know what's out there. I can see it from the ground. I can make some assumptions. I can infer some ideas based on the reality around me and how things actually work. But it's just all a guess. I have no idea. But I do love the conversation. And I don't get bent out of shape if somebody disagrees with me, but I will ask harder questions if they do. But I think that's the mark of somebody that's drank the Kool-Aid in some cases, because they want to believe that. They're invested in it. And I have no problem with that, because there's things I want to believe too. When I grew up, I wanted to believe in Star Trek. I knew it wasn't real, but I thought we would get there. I wanted to be in that kind of environment. I love the idea of traveling through space and visiting other worlds and other beings and just the adventure. The reality, however, now that I'm grown, I do not want to be in a sardine can when what's outside of that sardine can wants me dead. I don't want to do that. That doesn't sound like fun to me at all. I would be mortified the whole time. I would not have any fun. I don't care how adventurous it was. So, there are some empty spaces in space, some very populated spaces. Interesting, Walter. Well, the one thing I know for certain is space is not empty. I wanted to be an astronaut, LMAO, right? So did I, briefly. But that eyeglasses thing kind of put a damper on that. So, all right. That's enough for one night. It's 10:46. We went 30 minutes over and I didn't even realize it. Cold Creek Croft, Glycerine, Fab Daddy, Walter. Thank y'all for the conversation. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I hope that you can sleep well tonight, considering all of that. Have a great night. God bless you all. Thank you so much for being here. I'll see you tomorrow night at 8 p.m. right here for some Bible study in that great book that we've been studying, Esther. There's a spot called the void, and there's nothing there. Well, there's nothing there that we can see. There may be something there, but it's further than we can see. But yeah, I've heard about that place, Walter. Xanderby says, oh my gosh, it's you again. I entirely forgot about this. Well, Xanderby, thank you for being here. Lizarine says, good one, everybody. Love ya. Priest Luth says, have a nice night. God bless you. Thank you. You too. I'll be there. Excellent. Xanderby says, have a good night. Walter says, good night, all. God bless. I love you guys. Thanks for getting me all riled up. I enjoy every minute of it. I hope you enjoyed it too. It was meant to be entertaining. So, all right, I'm out. Thanks for watching.